Hey, 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 everyone. Good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Uh, not seeing anybody as yet join. And make sure that I'm on Facebook. Yep, I'm here. Oh, oop, there it is. There it is. Good to see you all. Talking about wealth is not equal to income. Wealth does not equal income. People were celebrating, unfortunately, celebrating um, the death of an individual this week, and I thought it was pretty sad. But then on top of that, they started to say that he was broke because he only had $1,000 in his bank account, and I'm like, yeah. First off, before I talk about other people's money, let me talk about mine. Phenomenal STEMist is in bookstores now. Phenomenal STEMist is in bookstores now. And you could always find the link to Amazon to let me say that it's not in bookstores, it's on Amazon now. Let me say that it's on Amazon now. You can find the link by going to my website www.phenomenalstemist.com. And listen, June STEM camp is on the way. So if you have children, pre-K to the 12th grade, and you want to get them involved in STEM early, join Phenomenal STEM Camp, register Phenomenal STEM Camp. You can find that on www.phenomenalstemist.com. All right. All right. All right. All right. All right. So back to what I was saying, some people were laughing that somebody only had $1,000 in their bank account when they died. And this person is or was a social media influencer with over 1 million subscribers. Trust me. Listen, $1,000 in a bank account does not reflect wealth. And I really, really need my people to understand the difference between income and wealth and bank statements. Okay. N- Net worth is equal to assets minus liabilities, number one. All right. So just because you have $1,000 in your bank account doesn't make you poor. All right. $1,000 period is a different thing. And nobody knows what people have. Nobody knows what people have. So let's talk about how the fact that wealth doesn't equal income. It's not necessarily great to have a lot of money in a bank account that does not provide interest. All right. There are other vehicles where you should be putting wealth. Now, I believe like I'm passionate about making sure you have $1,000 for quick emergencies in bank accounts. Right? So you have $1,000 in a savings account somewhere. And the other checking account is usually rolling. It's usually rolling, meaning that's where you get your paycheck and you pay your bills from, so it doesn't stay consistent, right? Should you be saving? Absolutely. Should you have lots of money someplace? Absolutely. But not in a bank account that only pays you 0% interest. Just not my opinion. That's how the banks make money off of you. They take your money and lend it to people at compounding interest. So let's talk about wealth according to Money for Under 30, right? So, number one, the difference between income and wealth is that income focuses on the present and wealth is all about the long term. Long term, meaning, there are a lot of people say, "Oh, I make $100,000 a year," but they have negative net worth. Why? Because they spend the whole $100,000. They don't invest it in the stock market. Yes, I know the stock market is going down, but stock market is long term, guys. Stock market is not something that I mess around with from day to day. I am not a day trader. And that's why I didn't like Robinhood. I told you guys on Phenomenal Financial Freedom, I wasn't a fan of it because they use gambling techniques to entice people into day trading, and stock market is long term. I'm a fan of Schwab. I'm a fan of Roth IRAs, $6,000 a year, and you can't take it out in 5 years. It's not a traditional IRA where you get punished for taking it out until you're 69. Roth IRAs, if there's an emergency, you could take it out, but it has to be after 5 years. You have to put it away for 5 years and not use it, or else you'll be penalized. And after 5 years, you can only take out what you put in. You can't take out any profits. Why? Because the purpose of the Roth IRA is to focus you on retirement, to focus you on long term investments. A simple, low cost index fund, long term, versus focus on making a whole bunch of money right now. Key thing is a Roth IRA is not a bank account. So I'm sure he probably had money stashed someplace else that doesn't only give you 0% interest. Number two, number two, number two. I'm sorry. HSA accounts. HSA accounts, right? HSA is the health savings account that many of you are like saying, I don't want it. If you are young and healthy, I'm a fan of the deductible insurance account attached to a health savings account. You can put up to $3,500 in your health savings account. You can't use that money, but that money's not a bank account. That is a health savings account that you use for long term. You put it in there for long term, so you use it for your health if you need it, or when you get older, you use it for all those health expenses that you will have when you are older. You see what I'm saying? It's long term. It's long term, and it's not a bank account. And the beauty of Roth IRAs and health savings accounts is that they're tax free. They grow tax free. And HSA, you pre-tax, you could put your money in before taxes. It grows tax free, and when you take it out, it's tax free as long as you use it for your health things for health. Guys, that's not a bank account, but that's wealth. All right. So how should you um, focus on your wealth? How do you build wealth? Right? How do you build wealth and not income? A lot of people trying to build income and all they're doing is paying taxes and stressing their body out. Right? Roth IRAs, passive income. HSA, passive income. Well, how do I mean what I mean by that? Meaning you put it in the account and it grows passively. Paying off your debt, right? That has nothing to do with a bank account. You see, you have money going into other places other than the bank account, but they all build your wealth. Start early. Start early. Make sure as soon as you have a job, you have a Roth IRA. You can put up to $6,000 in there. $6,000. So what I'm saying is, hey Tyreek, how are you doing? Glad you're watching. Listen, what I'm saying is, as soon as you have a job, you build your Roth IRA up to $6,000. In my opinion, if you can't put $6,000 a year in your Roth IRA, you're spending too much money on other things. You're spending too like whatever you're putting money in, whatever debts you're putting money for, cars, clothes, furniture, If you're putting more money than that and then you're leaving your Roth IRA empty, can't afford it. Start early. Start early. Trying to get this knowledge. I'm trying to get knowledge too. I need a mentor. You got a mentor in me. Where's my mentor? I'm just playing. Listen, start early. Tyreek, you are, what, 19 years old? Save that money. All right? Build up wealth by knowing where you stand. You know, I love that mint.com. That www.mint.com is my favorite finance app. www.mint.com, just in case. www.mint.com, my favorite financial app. It tells you every place you stand, everywhere you stand, all your online accounts, your student loans, your auto loans, your credit card balances. You assess yourself. You assess yourself. You are 19 next month. Oh my goodness. You have the world as your oyster. You are a young 18-year-old. Oh my goodness. Listen, listen. Take my advice. Go on to www.mint.com and you have all your sources of income so that you know your net worth. You know your net worth. You should have your own bank account. Online format, hook it up to mint.com and it'll tell you how much money you have in the bank, how much money you owe because of your car or your credit cards or whatever. First of all, you shouldn't have credit cards if you're in college, in my opinion. And then you make a budget. You make a budget and you stand by that budget. How else do you build wealth? We're talking about building wealth versus income. Meaning, I have a high net worth right now, more than the average, and median American of all races, any race. And look, I'm a single black woman. I'm supposed to be poor, right? I'm supposed to be poor, but my net worth is more than the median and average of any American, much less the world, because Americans are the richest in the world, right? The world, people don't make any money in the world, right? I when I graduated from Albert Einstein College of Medicine, I was making $25,000 a year at 28 years old. $25,000 a year at 8 years old. I got a postdoc, and I think I jumped to maybe 38,000. That's it. I was working as a scientist, only making $38,000 a year. This is back in 2007. Okay, I want you to understand that wealth is not income. Wealth is not income. I quit my job. This is a testimony. I quit my job and I worked one class a semester or something like that. I was doing an adjunct position. Shout out to all the adjuncts out there, many of which unfortunately are losing their jobs because people aren't going back to college for some reason. What's going on? What's going on? But anyway, I I basically um taught a couple of classes that year, and I only made $13,000. Let me tell you, listen to what I'm saying. I don't think you understand. So when I was 28, it was 25,000. I was 28, it was 25,000. Okay, I had my schooling paid for, so I wasn't paying tuition or anything like that. I only made 25,000 that year, but I didn't have to pay for school. Hey Don, how are you? Then I became a postdoc, and maybe if I remember, I don't remember, it's been so long. I made 38,000. $38,000 in 2007. I was not rich. And I had my PhD. I had my PhD. When I was doing my PhD and I was going to school for free, they paid me 25,000. So I had my bachelor's and master's degree and I was only making $25,000 to go to school. But as I said before, they paid for my tuition. So add another that's like me making $50,000, right? When I graduated, I got a job down in Florida for 38,000. It's a fellowship program. I'm still getting my education. I'm still getting my education. So I haven't gotten a real job as yet. So they were basically paying for my training. Not a lot of money. Not a lot of money. Okay? I'm telling you this because I don't want you to think I'm bragging about the fact that I have a net worth more than any American, the average American, white, black, or otherwise. Now, it's not because I was just rolling in the dough. I've been rolling in the dough. I made 25,000 to 38,000 and I quit my job in 2008. I quit my job in 2008 and made I want you to see the number so you can see it. So you can see what I'm talking about. Not $30,000. $13,000. How in the world? Well, partly because I humbled myself. I moved into my mama's house. I moved into my mom. I didn't try to act big and bad. I kind of did because I bought a sports car the year before, which I told you was one of my biggest mistakes. But I wasn't living big and bad. $13,000. So I only taught one class. That's all I made. Why? Because I was looking for other things. I didn't want to be bogged down with a full-time job just in case. I had moved to Philadelphia, came back, and I was just trying to see where I wanted to be, didn't know what I wanted to do. And I didn't want to tie myself down. Right. So I was 29 at the time. All right. So then I got a job. I got a full-time job. And it jumped. It jumped. And it just kept jumping. And it just kept jumping. I'm not going to tell you how much I make now. Just know that it's way more than $13,000. But I'm trying to get you to understand, how did I build wealth with starting off with such low money? How did I build wealth starting off with low money? I just reduced my expenses. I didn't live high on the hog. I lived with my mother until 35 years old. I lived with my mother until 35 years old. I did. Didn't get my own apartment. For what? I might as well help my mom. Help my mom, you know, give her rent money. My mother is mortgage free, partially because I helped her with her rent money, with my rent money. I'm not giving the man to help the man with his rent money. I'm helping my own. Because truth be told, that house that my mother lives in is mine too. You get what I'm saying? That house that my mother lives in is hers, but it's really mine. So why give the man out there tens of thousands of dollars in rent when I could give my mother to lower her cost of living and increase her net worth, which really, if we stick to this thing like a family, which is really increasing my net worth. I saw your email, young man, but I was away because you sent me the email during the summer break, the break when I'm off. It was great to hear from you, sir. It's great to hear from you. Email me again. We could talk, and of course we could Zoom. D, I would love for you to meet Tyreek. Tyreek is my current student. D is my former student, Tyreek. He was in my they were in my research class together. Tyreek is on YouTube. D is on LinkedIn. So y'all can't talk to each other right now, but look each other up, D. Tyreek is on my LinkedIn page, so you can friend each other. Definitely connect with each other for sure. Good to hear from you. Yeah, I feel like society plays a big part in that. In what? In what, D? Plays a big part in what? Don says planning, saving, investing. Absolutely. Build wealth by first reducing your expenses, though. Reduce your expenses. Planning, saving, investing is important. I'm getting to that. But you got to reduce your expenses, number one. That's what I did. When I wasn't making much money, especially, I reduced my expenses. Number two, how did I build wealth? I paid off my debt. I reduced my expenses and I paid off my debt. That's what I did. Reduced my expenses, did not live high on the hog, paid off my debt. I started with my credit card debt. I had too much credit card debt. I was traveling, going all over the place because I felt like I had the time to do it because I was only a adjunct at the time. I had time. So I spent money traveling, but I put it on my credit card, not realizing I'm like, look at this interest is just jumping, jumping. So I said, you know what? Chill with that. Reduce your expenses, pay off that debt. I started with my credit card. After I paid off my credit card, I paid off my car loan. After I paid off my car loan, I paid off my student loan. After I paid off my student loan, I paid off my other car loan. After I paid off my other car loan, I'm paying off my mortgage. I'm in the process of building wealth as we speak. I have no discretionary debt. I don't have car loans and credit loans and student loans. And I did it making 25, 38, 13, and now I'm making good money now. But what I want you to understand is I was doing it when I was only making um lower amounts of money. Yeah. Yeah. Pay less. Pay less. D says a young man living with his parents still, but even as a black community, finances is definitely not the first thing we're taught. And if only I knew when I was 20. I get it. So I get your point. You're like a young man living with his parents, people will look down on that. Well, those people are stupid. Women included. Okay. I'm not talking about 40-year-old men. See, I'm 44 years old now. I left my mother's house at 35. I think if I was still living at my mom's house at 35, 40, 45, that might be an issue. However, at 30, 29, 22, 2020, 22, 25, 27, 30, there is nothing wrong, especially if you have the mindset of what I'm talking about. And you're paying your parents rent. I didn't live at home with my mom and not giving her nothing. I gave my mother rent. But the thing is, the rent was able to empower my mother and get her debt free. The rent was lower because my mother was not trying to make a profit off of me. But I didn't just live up in my mother's house, didn't not going to school, not going to work, eating up her food, not giving any like that's when you the society should look down upon you. But I have no problem with a young man living at home with family, start trying to basically empower himself to be excellent. And so you just ignore those people because they don't know your story. They don't know your story. Tariq says, helps everyone involved, you and the parents. Absolutely. And ultimately yourself, because who's going to have to take care of the parents later on? And the problem with generational wealth is that nothing is passed on because everybody's in debt and everybody's trying to give money to everybody else but the family. Yeah. Let's see what D says. To be completely honest, I'm just now figuring that out at 28, life at 28. I feel like that is when most catch their stride. Yeah, D. Yeah. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with that, but I want people to catch their stride early. You see, Tyreek is only 18. And Tyreek has been working with me at 18. And I guarantee you, if you were working with me at 18, you may have catched your stride earlier, you know? But such is life. But what we want to do is we want to help mentor others behind us so that they catch their stride early. I have this group on it's called Phenomenal Financial Freedom on Facebook. Most of the watchers, I don't know now, but when it first started, many of the watchers were millennials. I'm a Generation Xer. And when I was their age, 29, 30, I had a negative net worth. But now my followers or the people who are in the group who are 29, 30, they don't have a negative net worth. Why? Because they watched me. I reached back to them and they now caught their stride way earlier than I did. I didn't become positive net worth until maybe 35 when I bought my first home, right? And started paying off my car loans and stuff like that. So you got to reach back to the younger ones so that they don't catch their stride later than normal. But there's nothing wrong with you catching your stride where you are. And 28 is still young. I moved into my mother's house at 29. I moved into my mother's house at 29. After leaving at 18, I had to move back to my mother's house at 29, and there was nothing wrong with that. It's easier for a woman, absolutely. It's easier for a woman, but I will not judge a man who did it if he had the same similar mindset as me, building his wealth. Because a lot of people trying to front, and all they do is put themselves in less and less wealth. How do you build up wealth? Here's another one. You build up wealth by refinancing. Now, this is according to this article that I'm reading. And I'm very careful about refinancing, but I'm not to say that I don't believe in refinancing. Some of you have mortgage insurance that you're paying on because you didn't put down more than 20% or more on your home. And they're charging you all these insurances over and over and over. And you bought after 2013, where that's the life of the loan. That's a lot of wasteful money. And you've probably got a lot of equity in this massive housing boom. If I had a PMI for the life of my loan and I bought at a time where I have a massive amount of equity, I would refinance. Just me. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a home insurance person. However, if you're wasting money on prime what is it called? MIP, excuse me, mortgage insurance something principal or premium mortgage insurance premium MIP, excuse me, MIP mortgage insurance premium. You're just basically throwing away $200 every month just to tell the bank I'm still able to pay the mortgage. Refinance that sucker. Bring it down and get rid of that. That's just me. And so some people build wealth through refinancing. It's not a lost cause for everything. It shouldn't be done over and over and over again. I wouldn't do it to pay somebody's college education, things like that. But listen, you could build wealth through it. You could build wealth by investing. That's what Don was saying earlier. Don was saying you got to invest, you got to plan, you got to save, you got to invest. Investing. So what I'm saying is people were getting all in the media about how Kevin Samuels only had 1,000. You don't know Kevin Samuels' worth. You don't know where he has his money. And I wouldn't have my money in a bank account that only gave me 0% interest either. I only have $1,000 in my savings account. Most of my money is in my Roth IRA. my health savings account, my my regular brokerage account. I have emergency funds that way. And yes, the stock market is crashing, but remember, wealth is built through investing in stocks, usually low index accounts, long term. My money is in debt reduction of my real estate. You know, my money is investing in technologies that make me money, my business account. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, I don't put a whole bunch of money in savings. That's a waste of inflation. Inflation eats away your cash dollars. You have to lower your debt. You have to lower your debt. Yep, lower your debt. So lower your debt, invest in a health savings account, invest in a Roth IRA first, max that out at $6,000. Then you have some of you have 401ks that are matched by your jobs. You go to the match, whatever they're willing to match, you basically invest that in. That's a lot of money. Like, if you think about it, if you make $40,000 a year and they're willing to match 5% of that, right? That's $2,000. So you're already dropping $2,000 a year just on your 401k up to the match. Then another $6,000. That's the Roth IRA. That's $8,000 of your 40. You see what I'm saying? And then your HSA account, which is 3,500, right? So that's 11,500. So you should be putting 11,500. If you make $40,000 a year and you have all those vehicles at your fingertips, 11,500 already is put in that, right? $40,000, you're probably getting taxed $10,000 or $5,000. So let's do that. $40,000 minus 5, that's $35,000 minus another 11, right? That's $24,000 left for you. You don't have 20, like, you got to pay rent, you got to pay food. So truly, you don't have money to waste on foolishness. If you made $40,000 this year and you really only have 24 of that to spend, that means you have to go cheap. You can't buy expensive cars. You may have to live at home with family, or you may have to get roommates, or you may have to get married. Like, you know what I'm saying? To not do this thing on your own. Hey, mom, you get my point? Like, you have to make decisions like that. You definitely don't have money to be put in a bank account. You know what I'm saying? So $40,000, you should only spend. They said only like 30% on that. Of that should be your housing bills and stuff like that, right? So 30% of $40,000 is $12,000. So what you're left with is 24,000, and half of that is your living expenses. So all you are left with $12,000. I hope you're catching my math. STEM for math, right? So you're left with $12,000 to do other things with. But so if you only can afford $12,000 for a living, that means that's $1,000 a month. How much are you paying for rent? If you make $40,000 and you're paying more than $1,000 a month for rent, you're living in a poor in too much. And you're like, well, Maya, look how much the rents have jumped. Well, it might be time to get married. It might be time to move home with your mama. It might be time to get some friends and roommate with, right? I'm just being real. D Bowie says, how do you feel about an IUL? I got one with the idea of paying off in any future schooling expenses, but I don't have a Roth IRA. I don't know what an IUL is, D. I don't know what an IUL is. Remember, I'm not a finance person, and I'm pretty simple. So the Roth IRA is the best vehicle because it grows tax free. I've never heard of an IUL. Let me try to Google it if I have IUL. Yeah. Oh, universal life insurance policy? No, sir. I'm not a fan of definitely not your age. Do you have any children? You got people living off of you that if you die, something. Roth IRA is the number one way to build cash tax free. You understand? And that's what always target us with life insurance. Life insurance is for life insurance is for when you die, you because you have a certain amount of money and people are living off of you, you need to be able to pass it on to your children. You don't need life insurance because you are a single young man. And if you get life insurance, it should be just term life insurance for you, my friend. You need to put money tax free in a Roth IRA that grows tax free, $6,000 a year. That should be your primary income. You know, that's what I believe. That's what I believe. Yeah, you don't have no kids. Yeah, no, like, yeah, yeah. I do believe in insurance now, like for long term care insurance. Some of you out there, like myself and other single women who may not get married, you may want to consider long term care insurance, right? Because when you're older, even if you do get married, your husband get paid to take care of you or anybody. Like long term care is a valuable investment. Long term care insurance. Life insurance is important because GoFundMe is not a life insurance policy. However, through your job, or if you have one through your job or you don't have one, you could get term life insurance. I'm not a fan of using life insurance as a way to make money. Now, as I said before, I'm not a financial advisor. Some people say, oh, yes, you can do this and that. When you are wealthy and making all kinds of money, then do that. Right now, many of you are just middle class. You just need to get your 401k matched, right? That's $2,000 if you make $40,000 a year. That's the average income of most people, middle class people, $40,000 a year, right? $2,000 goes to the Roth IRA if they match it, because usually they match around 5%. 6,000 for the Roth IRA. That's $10,000. That's 8,000 plus your HSA account if you have access to it. That's 3,500. Like off the bat, that's a lot of money that you have to spend off the bat already. You don't have extra money to do all these other gimmicks. You know what I'm saying? And then you need to be paying off your debt. So I was saying half of that, it goes to paying off your living expenses, and if so, whatever 30% of your income is your standard, and so you may have to lower your standard. That was my point. Like you have to, you shouldn't be living if you're making $40,000 a year, you shouldn't be living in a home that's $2,400 a month. You're living beyond your means. You are, you are, and so you have to decide. My mom says 6 months of housing expenses in savings. My mother's a believer in that. A lot of people are believers in that. I believe in that, but I have levels of savings. I have levels of savings, right? I have emergency savings, which emergency is $1,000. I trust in God to provide high level of emergency. But something quick where I need it, I don't have to use my credit card. I don't expect, especially if I live a pretty safe life, I don't expect that an emergency should cost more than $1,000. Now, an emergency fund where if I lose my job, I should have 8 months in savings. But I don't put that in a savings account. That's just me. I could be wrong. I'm not the person. I put that in a traditional investment account, which has safety mechanisms, right? Robo investing, where it's not me just doing random stuff, but it's heavily invested by a robot. So they're not doing massive swings, right? So I do that. So yes, the stock market is doing really, really bad, and I need the money at the time that the stock market is doing really, really bad. I might be a little bit in trouble, but not that much because I have different levels of cash and stocks and other types of things in that account. So you have an emergency fund. I have an emergency fund in a more risky account, not in a savings account. So it's savings, but it's not really a bank account. That's my point. That's my point. Yeah. Cool, cool, cool. Lastly, according to what are some things to do to build wealth? Stay on the course, guys. So if you go on my Phenomenal Financial Freedom group book, I have an Excel file that literally the Excel file um, gives a a a spreadsheet that you plug in the numbers to basically get out of debt in 5 years. So I plan to be mortgage free in 5 years. I have to put a certain amount of money towards my mortgage, extra money towards my mortgage in 5 years. So I had to cut my cable. I had to do some drastic things to both give to charity because I still give to charity. Trust me, if I didn't give to charity, I would be mortgage free. But I really believe by giving to the church, I've been highly, extremely, extremely blessed, right? So my point is, I had to make some shifts in my behavior to put a lot of money down on my mortgage to get my mortgage down to the point that it'll be paid off in 5 years, right? I have to stay the course no matter what. I have to keep putting that money in, and I'm putting that money in. And I could get that money and buy a Tesla. I could you know what I mean? I could take that money. I see if I want to act like I'm rich and seriously buy a Tesla. So while some people are buying Teslas, I'm paying down my debt. That's the plan. That's the hope. You know. So, but I have to stay the course, even when I see people buying Teslas, even when I see people doing this and I see people doing that. You know, I don't have to follow the trends. I stay my course. My course was to get rid of my credit card debt, my car loan debt, my student loan debt, and my mortgage. And I've gotten 3 out of 4. I got one left. So what do I got to do? I was doing the snowball method. So all the money that I was using to pay off my other bills have snowballed into this big, massive snowball that I'm throwing at my mortgage. And people are like, Maya, you could take that snowball and buy a Tesla. And I'm like, no, I'm going to take that snowball and I'm going to pay off my mortgage. I'm going to stay the course. And so I hope that you do too. Stay the course, guys. All right. It's been fun talking with you guys. So definitely Dee and Tyreek, I want you guys to link up and talk to one another via LinkedIn. And of course, whenever you're free, Dee, feel free to reach out to me via email. Don, thanks for watching. Mom, thanks for watching. It was good to see you all. Have a good night. Don't forget, subscribe to my page. Subscribe, 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 subscribe. Share this video. Share this video with someone. Share this video on your page and subscribe to my YouTube channel. You guys have a good evening.